Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Dynamics 365 Tech Talk. Today's topic is, what's new in the April 2022 release for the configurable business documents? My name is David, and I'll be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this session through Teams live events, and the audio can be heard through your device speakers. This session is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. When you view this event, your name, email address, and/or phone number may be viewable by other session participants in the attendee list. By joining, you're agreeing to this experience. The recording will be available on the TechTalk's Community Dynamics page within 5 business days. If you have questions for the presenters or need support, please use the Q&A panel located on the right side of your screen. Our presenters will be responding to your questions during the session and with remaining time after the presentation. Thank you for your patience during these announcements. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Mikhail Filatov, Principal Engineering Lead, and Nikolay Selin, Senior Program Manager. Mikhail, over to you.
Thank you, David. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our new Tech Talk on configurable business documents. We'll talk about the overall configurable business document functionality, right, which we released more than 2 years ago, and we'll dedicate most of the time to the new features. First of all, I would do an overview of these features in April 22 release, and after that, Nikolay will do a demo of most important features out of this, and we'll have enough time at the end for Q&A. But obviously, you can ask your questions during the demos and the presentation, and I will try to answer some of them during the demos, right, and presentation. And if we don't have time or it's an important question we would like to talk about at the end, we'll do this during Q&A at the end. As I mentioned, it's a regular Tech Talk, which we're doing since 2019. So it's not an introduction to configurable business documents, but I would just like to have the slides to make sure that we're all on the same page, right? So when we talk about configurable business documents, we have 2 layers and 2 main personas. On top, we have Phyllis. She's an accounting manager. She's a business person responsible for financial operations, and she wants to have a last mile customization in Office for her, let's say, invoice, payment, and other type of reports. So for this purpose, we build this business document management workspace and overall configurable business documents functionality. So she can go there, choose a report from Microsoft or from a partner, which is available for her from Global Repo, and just do a simple customization on the fly in Office and immediately start use this report. In the background, all this functionality is based on electronic reporting framework, which we released since the first cloud version of FNO, right, in 2016, which has a powerful functionality for building and transforming FNO data to all required output formats, and after that you can produce either Office document, XML, or PDF, and send it to mail, printer, etc., a lot of destinations, right? And for this framework, we have a Simon persona, right, with a system implementer or consultant who is capable of using AI, right, and do magic with it. And in case, for example, Phyllis needs some help, she can contact Simon, right, who can see immediately what she was doing, right, because all the documents which Phyllis is creating, right, they are also configurations in electronic reporting. So Phyllis and Simon can work together for end-to-end scenario. And as I mentioned, all the configurations and reports are being stored in our cloud service Global Repo, which is used for storing all this AI configuration and business documents. This is our 6th Tech Talk, as I said before, right? So if we would like to have an overview since the beginning of the tool, right, you can go to this page, right, and this TechTalk would also be published there, right? And also for electronic reporting, we have a lot of documentation docs. Okay, that's enough for introduction for the overall configurable business documents and AR functionality. Now let's talk more about specific features which we released. Thank you everybody for providing a lot of feedback on ideas, on Yammer, and some mail threads which we have, right? So we are listening to our partners and customers, right? And most of the features which we did here are based on your feedback. So thank you for this, and please continue working with us, giving us this feedback, right? Saying what we need to add to the tools which we're working on. So first feature which we built, right, in this release is the integration of BDM with global repo. As I mentioned, all the configurations and all the reports are being stored in global repo. But before that, it was Simon who had to actually get these configurations for Filis, right, in case they're not imported into the system. Now, in business document management workspace, you can just go, Filis can go there, import business document template from the global repository directly, right? So she doesn't need Simon to do this. Second is configurable business document destinations by using print management settings, which is actually a phase 2. So we just extend the list of the reports which support this functionality, which was released before, right? I wouldn't go into much detail into this, just we have this list of reports which we added in this release published on docs. Third feature is more ER specific, right? But it's also very important functionality, which was asked by multiple customers and partners. It's an ability to run the electronic reporting import of manually uploaded documents in batch. So this new feature allows you to do data import from a file which you manually select, and after that schedule a new batch job from the ER user interface, right? So basically doing this batching fully in ER. It's not all, right? We have more features, right? Which we did in this release. So a small but very useful functionality which we added is an ability to use only cell data types that are defined in ER format for data processing. So basically it allows you to more smart do import of Excel templates, and it prevents some ugly data conversion or runtime bugs which can happen if the format is not correct. And then we have two features which we release in actually not in 10.25, which is April, right? But in the same wave, right? In next monthly update in 26, right? And first of these features is actually a capability which was highly asked, right, by several customers and partners, and it allows to use ER for some various scenarios involving label printing. So this feature, which we call Support ZPL Printing, it allows this, to have a direct printing by configuring ER using Zebra programming language, ZPL2. And after you did it, you can just directly send these generated labels from the configuration to a selected network printer. So most of this functionality just is available in the system, right? But we enabled integration of these functionalities with ER, so it's like you can use ER to configure ZPL to configuration. And the last feature I would refer to is keep rows together functionality for Excel outputs. So it's when you do, especially in business documents or on other Excel outputs, right? If you want to keep a section together, right, and make sure that no lines are slipping to another page, right? We now give you an ability to configure and set up it in ER. So your reports looks nicer. Okay, that's all for the introduction. And now I would like to give the mic to Nikolay Selin, who would do the demo of these features. Nikolay?
Thank you, Mikhail. Let me share my desktop and continue our presentation. I would like to start at presenting the recently released feature that improves the business document management functionality. As Michael already mentioned, you know that initially we released the functionality that allows Filis persona to use the business document management workspace to tune templates of business documents that were provided by Microsoft or by other partners. And for doing that, she needs to select the desired template and start editing it. But initially, she was able to select the only template that has been initially imported to the current instance of the finance application by the Simon persona from one of the configured repositories. In our sample, Simon initially imported the free text invoice template from the global repository that is configured by default. So Filis is not able, for example, to select a template which is used to generate customer invoices, because this template is not available yet in the system, right? So what she could do is only ask Simon to bring this template in. So the recently released feature empowers Filis to browse the global repository and import the required templates right from the global repository at any time without Simon assistant. What she needs to do in this case is just to select this new option, browse the global repository, find the appropriate template, in our case, for example, the sales invoice template, confirm its uploading from the global repository to the current instance of the finance application. And since she's planning not only to modify this template, but to immediately start using it, in addition to the template itself, all the corresponding artifacts are imported automatically. In this case, I'm talking about the corresponding data model configuration, model mapping configuration, etc. So it happens automatically, and when it finished, Filis can just create your own revision of the provided template and can start using the business document editor to modify the provided template, either by using the Office Online editor or by the desktop app. And when she decided that everything is okay, she can just select your template in print management settings and start use it for processing sales invoices. So I hope that this functionality helps you to facilitate and accelerate Filis' work whenever she needs to update templates of business documents. The next recently released feature is also related to configurable business documents. Many of your business documents that you generated by running GR formats are based on designed Excel templates, and they might contain sections that you prefer to keep on a single page to improve the look and readability of generated documents. For example, here you can configure print management to use your GR format for generation of free text invoices. And if you entered an invoice containing multiple lines or with multiple notes, when you print it out and review generated documents, you may notice that, for example, the line 5 is spread over 2 pages. It starts on the first page and continues on the second page. And it doesn't look good because looking at the second page, it's not clear to which line the presented notes belong. And probably you would prefer to see the entire content of the line on a single page to improve the look and readability of your documents. Unfortunately, Excel that you use to generate this template doesn't support this functionality, but with the recently released feature, you can change your GR format to achieve this. So let's do the following. Let's open our GR format in the format designer. If you take a look at the range components of your formats, you may notice the new parameter for this kind of components. That's a keep rows together parameter. By default, it's set to no. But if you set it to yes, GR will try to place the content that is generated by this component on a single page when it's possible. Of course, if the content is too large to be placed on a single page, it will be spread over several pages anyway. Otherwise, GR will try to automatically place necessary page break to present this content on a single page. So now let's find our range component that is responsible for generation invoice lines and set this parameter to yes. Save changes and regenerate our invoice again. So now you see that when GR completed the line 4, it realized that the remaining part of the line of the page 1 is not large enough to embrace the entire content of the line 5. So that's why the page break has been automatically placed to start line 5 on the second page, keeping it on a single page. So I hope that this feature helps you to improve the look and readability of your business documents that you generate by using GR framework. And if you want to learn more about this feature, you can visit this What's New or Changed article that is dedicated to the 10.0.26 release, where you can find a short notice about this feature. It contains the link that will forward you to the appropriate wiki page explaining how this feature can be used. And also, it will guide you to the step-by-step sample explaining how you can configure your formats to achieve this. And the third feature that I would like to present you today is related to the direct printing functionality that we initially introduced for the GR framework. Initially, we released the functionality that allows you to design templates of business documents as Excel worksheets or Word documents, then use these templates to generate business documents as Microsoft Office documents, convert them to PDF, and send them out of the finance application to a network printer for direct printing. But in some scenarios, you would prefer to use the Zebra programming language to specify templates of your documents. Then use these templates to generate various types of labels, and then also send them out of the system to a network printer for direct printing. And with the recently released functionality, you can achieve this by using the GR framework. For this sample, I would assume that we implemented warehouse management in this finance application. And every warehouse location must be labeled with the self-adhesive labels that must contain a warehouse, the location name, location barcode, and warehouse workers will use the handheld readers to scan the barcodes of location labels. And even initially you labeled all your locations, you must have the possibility to reprint location labels on demand, for example, when some of them become damaged. And now you can use the GR framework to configure your warehouse solution that can be used by your warehouse supervisor, for example, to reprint location labels by running the GR format to generate them, and by using the GR destinations to send them out of the system to the network printer that is used to print out labels. So let's see how we can do this. For this demo, I've configured the sample of this GR solution. First, I've configured a simple data model that represents the structure of our locations. Then I've configured the GR model mapping, where I implemented access to the application table to get all the required details to fill my data model. And the third part of this solution is the GR format that we will run to generate our labels. It's quite simple, but if you look at the formula of this format, you will see that I'm using commands of the Zebra programming language to specify the layout and the content of our labels. As you can see here, we expect to see in our labels the warehouse name, the location name as a barcode and as a text, and check digits. You also may notice that I'm using the GR formula to calculate the left alignment of my barcode to keep this barcode in the center of a generated label, regardless of the number of characters in the location name. So if I would run this format for a single location by using the predefined screen destination, you will see that actually we are generating the text output. And you can use this destination just to review that actually you are placing to your label proper values. But to print it out, we need to configure our printer destination. So let's do it. We'll disable screen destination and enable the printer destination. First, I need to select the network printer. I've configured this printer in advance. This printer is configured as connected to the local application, which simulates my actual thermal label printer. And this local application communicates with the web service that accepted the provided labels in ZPL language, transforming them to rendering them to an image. And this application presents this image for us. And what's important that here you need to select the proper routing type to inform the document routing agent that the provided content is the Zebra language content, not the Office document content. So I will save our changes, and I'm almost ready to start printing our labels, except that we need to be sure that our document routing agent is up and running. And also we need to turn on our local application that simulates our label printer. So let's run it for a single label. So it comes to the document routing agent. And as you can see, our application renders this label, and we see that it presents the warehouse name, the location title as a barcode, the location title as a text, and the check digits. If you want to modify your label, what you need to do in this case, you can simply modify the formula of our GR format. For example, let's assume that you would like to show in your label the location profile, this value. So what you need to do, you need to simply change this formula, adding one more chain of commands, ZPL commands. I will simply do it in this way. And here I need to point to a data source field exposing our profile ID. So I'm lucky because it's already available in our data model and model mapping. If it's not available, you know that you can modify your data model and model mapping, exposing any data you need to present in your labels. There are no limits for that. So we will save our changes and run it again. So now you see, in addition to everything we've shown before, the profile ID is shown on the bottom of a generated label. So that's how you can use the GR framework to generate various type of labels now. And I hope that it will help you to automate your business processes where printing of such labels is needed. So if you need more information about this feature, you can also look at the what's new page I already mentioned. Here there is a short notice about that with the link that will navigate you to the appropriate documentation page. And also it contains the link to the how-to guidance that you can use to learn in details in step-by-step manner how this feature can be used, how you can configure models, mappings, formats, configure your local printers, all this stuff. So hope this will help you to use this feature. So that's all I plan to show you today, and I guess now it's time for Q&A.
Thank you, Nikolay. Right, so great demos, and we already have several questions. So maybe we can start from top. I think the first is the full training available for business document management? So I think that, yeah, we have parts of AR and business documents training integrated in the common Dynamics trainings. We don't have a separate training for it. So you can refer to this aka.ms business document management for all the new functionality, all the new description which we have regarding business document management. Second question, we have a lot of questions about ZPL. Can you edit the ZPL code directly only through the AR designer? Nikolay, maybe you can answer it.
Let me find this question, just a second. Can you edit the ZPL code directly or only on the jar designer? Actually, currently, as I've shown you during this demo, you can use the jar designer. It's a default approach. But you understand that actually jar framework allows you to access any, I would say, text in the system that you might consider as a chain of ZPL commands. So if you want someone to edit ZPL labels beyond GR, just implement somewhere a text field that will be available for your users and access this field from your GR format. So GR will just take this text, assuming that a chain of ZPL commands. And if it will be editable for someone on a normal application form, you can do this without GR. So it's very simple.
Okay, so we continue with this ZPL feature. I think got a lot of interest, right? So we have a lot of questions, which is great. Can DRA run in service mode when printing ZPL?
I hope yes, because we are, as you can understand from my demo even, that we are communicating with the network printer through the document routing agent. So I would suggest you to address this question to the team responsible for the DRA. But to my knowledge, since we don't use for printing the Adobe Acrobat Reader, like we use it for printing PDF documents, and that's why, yeah, that's why the desktop app mode is needed. Here, it should be working in the service mode because I don't see any limitations for that. But better to get the confirmation from the team responsible for the DRA agent.
Yeah, we don't see any issues with this, right? Because yeah, if you some of you know, right, for business documents, well, for conversion to PDF, right, we have issue, right, which is again PDF specific, right? Here we're not using PDF. So, but yeah, if you find any issues, just let us know, right? We'll work with DRA team, right? Seeing if it doesn't work for some reason. When printing labels, does the ZPL code get automatically generated, or do we need to know how to program in ZPL and manually key this in?
Unfortunately, we can't automatically generate ZPL codes. Probably there are some third-party tools for doing that. And if so, you can use those third-party tools just to get the chain of commands automatically, and after that, copy-paste it to the GR. But so far, we have no such automation. You need to provide the chain of command yourself.
Yeah. Next question from Birger. The ZPL feature is great, but how can the warehouse workers activate label print? I would say in AR, right, we have a framework, right, which we give you a capability, right? Obviously, in order to enable this framework in any specific place in the system, right, you need to think through this, right? And yeah, as of now, we don't have, let's say, we don't support any specific label printing scenario, right? In, let's say, Microsoft application platform, which our team is responsible for. So if you believe it's needed, right, please register an idea, right? And we can work with the, maybe warehouse team or do it on your own, right? So basically, we have built the capabilities right here, and like application uptake, we don't plan as of now, right? Any application uptake on, let's say, Microsoft owned code. You can do it on your own. Just use our tools and build your configurations and integrate it in specific application place, or like let's work together with the warehouse team and see how we can integrate it into the end-to-end scenario.
And additionally, I would like to mention that we consider some functionality for further releases that will allow you to, give some users, based on the business rules, privileges to run certain jar reports as ad hoc reports without any coding. So in this case, what you would do, you would just configure some jar format configuration, assuming that they will be available, for example, for warehouse supervisor for execution to print out like location labels. In this case, the warehouse supervisor user will see the possibility, will see the option to run this report on demand. And in this case, you will not need to make any code changes. You will need just to configure certain privileges in a configurable way. So probably it will be one more way to empower your users to run such reports without any coding. But as I said, we consider this functionality for further releases. It's not available yet.
Yeah, thank you, Nikolay. Next question from Anastasia. Why I can edit the Excel template only for when I'm logged in with some users, but not with another? For this users, Excel Online cannot load the template.
Probably there are some issues with the Excel Online subscription or certain security setting issues. Because usually when one user is able to do that and another one is not able, it's a matter of, the subscriptions and access rights or privileges. Just check what's the difference between those users from the Office licenses perspective and from the security settings perspective. You will see probably why it happens.
Next question, there should be better training available for BDM. There's not many good resources out there. Are there any future plans to address this? Thank you for your feedback on this, right? So, yeah, we have this Tech Talks, right? So, yeah, I heard a couple of questions already on the updated trainings. So we'll have a look at this and see what we can do to make it better. Where can I find instructions on how to set up the ZPL Printer simulator?
Actually, it's described in the step-by-step example that I've shown. You can just find it. It's on the docs Microsoft.com. And actually, it contains the description how to set it up. I mean, how to set up this local application that I've shown during the demo. So just follow this instruction. I want just to mention that I've seen many comments regarding this application, and many people complained that when they were trying to provide a label for this application, they saw information on the bottom that this label came to the application, but the application was not able to render it, providing the content of the label. And usually the problem is that you are trying to do it in the environment that is configured to prevent communication with that external service. That's why please make sure that your firewall settings does not prevent this application to connect to the web service that is responsible for rendering the provided label. And probably you noticed that I was doing the demo on the virtual machine, but to show you how the provided label is rendered, I was using this local app that was installed on my computer. Why? Because if I would try to do it on the virtual machine, it will not be working, because on the virtual machine, I have firewall settings that does not allow this application to communicate with the service. Just be aware about this.
Okay, so next question, do these functionalities make the installation of ISVs redundant? Again, I would say that we provide these capabilities of out of the box, right? But again, there are a lot of great ISVs in our community, right, who are providing maybe great tools, right, which may have their own use, right? So I would say that just look at what we have, right, compare with what ISVs have, and maybe there is like something that would better, like your scenarios would better fit for ISV, or you can just use out of the box functionality. Just make sure to, let's say, you know that we have this ER and CBD, right? Just make sure to compare, right, what is available out of the box with what ISV provides. But depending on your scenario, depending on your reports, you may find that either standard functionality, which we are discussing today, works, or maybe some ISV will doing something better, right? Does keep rows together work for Word as well?
Actually, we implemented this feature for Excel only because in Word, there is a Word feature, keeps line together and keep with next. So you can configure your Word template to keep certain pieces of your paragraphs, etc., together. So that's why you don't need JAR to do anything additional. So that's why I would say that it's supported in Word by default. So you don't need any new JAR feature for doing that.
Okay, thank you, Nikolay. Next question, would the ZPL code still work with non-Zebra printers? Example, Intermac.
So actually, again, I would better communicate with the DRA team, because from the JAR side, what we are just doing, we are translating the content you provided to your local printer, but we are doing it through DRA. And we know that DRA supports the ZPL contract type. And I'm not quite sure that it will properly support the language you mentioned. So better to address this question to the DRA team. Probably it will work, but I can't guarantee it for 100%.
Okay, next question. Are possible fields depending on your data model selection available for ZPL WHS level printing via CBD, or are they only the same fields they were available with document routing? So I can make labels with any information fields if I would want to.
Yes, that's what I mentioned during the demo. Since you can design your JAR format based on your data model and your model mapping, actually, you can provide for your format, and it means for your labels, any information you need, not only the warehouse management related information. That's the difference between the JAR solution and some hard-coded solution, because usually in hard-coded solutions, you have a limited list of fields available for references in your labels. In JAR, everything you have in the system can be used in labels.
But you can just extend data model, do mapping, right?
Right.
So the fields I have. Next question: what if I don't want the finance team to import directly from global app? Can I stick them?
Yeah, this option that I've shown during the first demo, it's controlled by a certain privilege. So you need just to properly configure your business roles, and if you don't want someone to have this option, just don't give him this privilege, and that's it.
Next question about security for running configurations. Per configuration, we already have it implemented for business documents, right?
Right. For business documents, you can configure your rules, users playing what roles are able to edit certain templates. So, for example, you can specify that, for example, the accounts receivable clerk only can edit free text invoice template and, for example, sales invoice template. And the treasurer is able to change templates for payment checks, something like that. So it means that when a user playing a certain role will go to the business document management and try to either select the already available template or try to import the template from the global repository, he will see not all the templates available, but the only templates he is entitled to edit. Yeah, it's controlled and it's configured. You can find the documentation about that.
Okay, next question. I think, we talk about this global repo security. Does this new AI designer mean the document original layout should now be blank? Not sure I understand.
Yeah, not sure I understand, but I think you asked this question assuming that the JAR solution will replace the currently using solution where you can configure some layouts. No, it's not correct, because we are talking about like the parallel way of making labels. So it means that in the current functionality, you can still configure your labels layouts, and there is no relation between that functionality and the functionality I've shown. So you can use JAR to produce labels in a JAR way. And if you feel that in some places it's much easier, much more comfortable, you can do that. Otherwise, you can continue using the current solution.
Yeah, I think we are providing a new capability in our framework now, right? And I think it's, again, it was highly requested by several customers and partners, but it's up to you guys, right? Now start using it, and we'll see, right, how we can maybe improve and extend it, maybe to some application uptake on this, right? So as of now, right, this is the capability which you can use, and depending on feedback of how this feature would work, right, and what you would need additional, right, we can improve it, add some additional capabilities, right? For now, it's not replacing anything, right? You can just use it additionally to what other capabilities we have. Is it possible to redirect a printout, a print of a label to a different printer than the original one?
Yes, it's possible. By default, JAR offers the possibility to give for certain users the privilege to change the default destination on the fly at runtime. For example, when you run, actually you've seen it during my demo, when I run our label the first time, you will see that the predefined screen destination was initially used, and I could see this pre-configured destination, and there was a button change that I can click, go to the list of configured destinations and change their settings. So for example, if the default destination is configured to print out our labels using a certain printer, if you give the privilege to certain users to change it at runtime, at any time when he runs this report, he can click the button change, go to the printer destination settings, and select the printer he would like to use during the current run. So it's possible.
Okay, next question. Will it be possible to use XML node names in Word layout design using content control?
Actually, you are talking about a totally different way of Word documents generation, because now we are filling in Word documents by providing the embedded custom XML part, and the Word itself is responsible for rendering the final document. But here, as I understand, you are talking about the way that we used for Excel when JAR generates directly a document. And currently, we don't plan to do it for Word yet, but but we have some requirements that are related to flexibility and performance that I'm afraid could not be resolved if we continue using the custom XML part related approach. So probably we would consider this option, but so far we cannot confirm that we will be doing that.
Yeah, I think we're working on some like improvements in Word, like experience, right, in AR, right? But yeah, it's like something probably we can share for the new wave release plan when they're available, right? But no confirmed plans as of now. Other videos showing how to remove fields for the templates. I think again, it's we have on TechTalk, we have actually videos you can check how to add a field, right? But basically from removing fields, it's just, I don't know, maybe what is your specific scenario here? Yeah, Nikolay.
Yeah, if you are talking about Excel, it's quite simple because if you are editing your Excel template in business document management workspace, actually what you can do if you would like to remove a certain field, you can remove a name from Excel, and after that, click the button update template. It means that when you click this button, jar will synchronize your updated template with the underlying jar format. And if jar did not find a name that is presented in the underlying format as a, for example, range component, like I've shown, this range component will be removed from the underlying format, and the format and Excel will be kept synchronized. Actually, it's described in the documentation. Just look at the page containing update structure abbreviation or update structure text. You will find it.
Okay, so next question, follow-up question to printing on a different destination. Is it possible to select destination in the warehouse app?
Again, as I said, we have not integrated our solution with any warehouse applications. So you can do it yourself because there is a jar API allowing you to run any jar format from any place of your application. So it's up to you. But so far, we have not changed any warehouse applications for using jar. We just provided the functionality that allows you to use jar for making labels.
Yep. Again, and have a look at this like functionality, right? This AR feature, if it's useful, right? Let's like work with warehouse team. Maybe you can register idea for them, right? So we can work together and enable this, right? So, what's next on the roadmap? I think that it's kind of this is open video, right? Which it's not under NDA. So as of now, our next this wave are not officially available, right? So like as soon as they are, right, you will see, right? What I will tell you that we have a lot of things to on our roadmap for AR and CPD, and we are listening to your feedback. And again, I think that some of the features, for example, this ZPL, right, it was just released, right? So depending on your feedback on the uptake, we would consider like improvements, some additional functionality for this, right? So I would say that a lot of things on the roadmap depends on you, right? It depends on your feedback because we are listening to it. Okay, I think we're out of questions. Any other questions? Okay, then thank you everybody for joining us today, for your time. Now switching back to David.
All right. Well, thank you, Mikhail, and thank you also, Nikolay. I've posted a short link in the Q&A panel, and we'd like your feedback on today's session and hear about what you'd like on future events. Thank you for your participation. As a reminder, the recording of today's session will be available on the TechTalk's Community Dynamics page within 5 business days. I'd like to expend a big thank you to our presenters and audience for joining us today.